From the outside, it always looks so obvious. You see a friend stuck in a relationship that's clearly draining them, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. They cry to you one night, swear they're done, and then a few days later, they're back with the same person who hurt them. And you're left wondering, why do they keep going back? But here's what we rarely say out loud. Love doesn't always come dressed as kindness. Sometimes it wears a mask of promises, desperate apologies, and emotional chaos that looks a lot like passion, but is really control. That's the world of hoovering, a term borrowed from a vacuum brand and for good reason. It describes the toxic pattern where a manipulator, often someone with narcissistic traits, sucks you back into the very relationship you fought to escape. It's not love, it's a trap. This video is your mirror and your flashlight, a guide to help you distinguish genuine connection from toxic manipulation. If you've ever felt torn between your heart and your sanity, you are not alone. Let's break it down. 6 subtle but powerful signs you're being hoovered. It always starts with hope. After the chaos, the fights, the breakdowns, they come back with softness in their voice. They say the right things. I've changed. This time will be different. You're everything to me, I can't lose you. And for a moment, you believe it. Because you want to. Because the pain you went through needs to mean something. Because if they're finally willing to change, maybe all that suffering wasn't for nothing. But here's the truth. Promises without action are emotional manipulation in disguise. This is one of the most dangerous hoovering tactics. They dangle the fantasy of a better version of themselves in front of you, just long enough to get you back in their grip. They convince you to stay just a little longer. And when they break that promise, you're already deep inside the emotional storm again. Psychologist Susan Albers compares it to a roller coaster, not the fun kind. One moment, you're hopeful. The next, devastated. You feel confused, doubting your own judgment. You wonder, am I asking for too much? But here's what you must remember. Real change is consistent, uncomfortable, and accountable. If they're offering you comfort without growth, they're not changing. They're baiting you. Have you ever been pulled back by empty promises? If so, you're not alone. Drop a comment below. Your story might be the one that helps someone else break free. At first, it feels innocent. A simple, hey, how was your day? A meme, a song that reminded them of you. A sudden, I miss you at 2 a.m. They say they just want to talk, just to check in, just to see how you are. But it doesn't stop. The texts keep coming. The calls, the voice notes, the guilt trips, the, are you really going to ignore me after everything? They don't give you space to breathe. Not because they care, but because they need to control the silence. This is hoovering in disguise, a tactic to wear down your boundaries until you feel too tired to resist. It's not about you. It's about their fear of losing control over you. And when you try to cut contact, that's when it gets worse. They might message your friends, reach out to your family, post vague stories online designed to reel you back. Suddenly your private pain becomes a public stage. And they're performing for your attention, but you don't owe them your peace. Block them, mute them, go no contact if you have to. And most importantly, tell the people around you what's really happening. It might feel awkward or extreme, but this is about reclaiming your life. And the more support you have, the stronger your boundary becomes. If someone in your life is turning communication into a weapon, it's not love, it's manipulation. You are not obligated to respond. You are allowed to disappear. Your silence is not cruelty, it's protection. They come back like a dream, lavish gifts, over-the-top gestures, grand declarations. They talk about the future, about marriage, about moving in, about starting over. They flood you with, I've changed, and I finally understand what I lost. It's overwhelming. And that's the point. This is love bombing. One of the most deceptive forms of hoovering. It doesn't look like abuse. It looks like romance, like redemption, like the version of love you always wished they were capable of giving. But take a breath and ask yourself, where was this energy when you were hurting? Did they listen? Did they show up when you needed comfort instead of control? Or did they only become generous once you pulled away? Love bombing is not about love. It's about pulling you back in before you remember why you left. It's emotional bribery disguised as devotion. The truth? If someone only treats you like you matter, after you've walked away, it's not love, it's panic. A desperate attempt to regain power by making you feel guilty for wanting peace. Real love shows up consistently, especially when there's nothing to gain. It listens. It grows. It respects boundaries. It doesn't need a grand performance to feel real. So the next time someone suddenly becomes everything you ever wanted after ignoring everything you ever needed, ask yourself, is this love or is this strategy? You start to second-guess everything. Did it really happen the way I remember? Was I overreacting? Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe it was my fault after all. This is gaslighting, one of the most sinister tools in the Hoovering playbook. It doesn't scream abuse. It whispers doubt. It turns your reality into a blur, making you question your own sanity while they stand there, pretending to be calm, composed, and misunderstood. They'll say things like, "You're remembering it wrong." "I never said that." "You're just being dramatic." You always twist things around. And slowly, they don't just break your heart, they break your trust in your own mind. Gaslighting is mental erosion. It's the subtle twisting of facts until you forget what was real and start clinging to their version of the story. Because it feels easier than fighting to hold on to your own. But here's the truth they don't want you to realize. You're not crazy. They're just scared of the truth. If you ever feel like your memories are on trial, bring in a witness. Talk to a friend, a sibling, someone who was there, or someone who knows the real you. Let them remind you of the version of events that makes sense. Let them anchor you back to reality, and most importantly, trust yourself again. You didn't imagine the disrespect. You didn't make up the manipulation. You saw what you saw. You felt what you felt. Gaslighting doesn't work on people who refuse to let go of their truth, so hold it, guard it, own it. Just when you finally start to breathe again, they call, crying, panicked, desperate. Something terrible has happened, like they lost a job, a pet died, they're in the hospital, or worse. They're talking about ending it all. Your heart drops. Because you're human. Because you still care, even after everything. And they know that. This is another cruel form of hoovering. Manufactured crises, real or fake situations engineered to pull you back in using guilt, fear, or emotional obligation. It's not about healing. It's about keeping you tethered through panic. And the worst part? Sometimes the crises feel real. They may be. But that doesn't mean they're not being used to manipulate you. Suddenly, your boundaries become blurry. Your instinct to protect yourself is overshadowed by the fear that walking away makes you a bad person. That if something happens to them, it's your fault. But hear this loud and clear. You are not their savior. You are not their therapist. You are not responsible for fixing them. If someone truly needs help, the right thing to do is not to run back. It's to call for support. Reach out to a crisis line. Alert a family member. Contact emergency services if needed. Being concerned doesn't mean becoming controlled. And if the crisis fades as soon as you return? If the tears dry up and the chaos disappears like smoke, take note. That wasn't a cry for help. It was a strategy. You are allowed to protect your peace even when it feels heartless, because your safety is not selfish. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for both of you, is stay gone. They act like nothing happened. They text you like you're still together. They tag you in memes, mention your name to mutual friends, laugh in your DMs as if the arguments, the tears, the final goodbye never existed. This is the silent version of hoovering. No grand gestures, no begging. Just a quiet rewriting of reality where the breakup is erased and your boundaries are ignored. And the most confusing part? They're calm, unbothered. As if your pain was just a minor inconvenience in their storyline. It leaves you wondering, was it really that bad? Maybe I overreacted. Maybe we can just be cool. No. What you're feeling is not guilt. It's the residue of invalidation, because someone is acting like your decision to walk away meant nothing. This tactic is meant to disorient you, to create doubt, because if they pretend you never left, they don't have to admit you had a reason to. And if they can keep things friendly, they can keep the door cracked, just wide enough to sneak back in when they're ready. But here's the truth. Pretending everything is fine is just another way of refusing accountability. You don't owe them comfort. You don't owe them access. You don't have to keep playing the role they've written for you in their fantasy. You left for a reason, and healing starts when you stop apologizing for choosing peace. If any part of this feels familiar, the promises, the flooding texts, the fake crises, the charm, the confusion, know this. You are not weak. You are not dramatic. You are not broken. You were targeted because of your empathy, because of your heart, because you saw the good in someone who was only showing you pieces of it to keep you close. But now you know. Now you see the pattern. And that awareness is your power. Start building a support system. Confide in someone you trust. Block who you need to block. Save your peace like it's sacred, because it is. And if you're still healing, still shaking, off the grip of a toxic connection, please remember, you are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not the problem. You were just too kind to someone who knew how to use kindness as a weapon. But the cycle ends when you stop returning. You deserve a love that doesn't require survival. You deserve safety, clarity, and peace. And it's okay if the first person who gives that to you is yourself.